terbukai long para tolunge dir bebewar bela diai.
Papua New Guinea is located in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, less than 200 kilometres across the Torres Strait from Australia. PNG is referred to as one of the most biologically and culturally diverse countries in the world. Its basic water and sanitation needs are large, however water and sanitation are given a low priority in the country, especially in rural areas. In 2013, 61% of the population didn't have access to safe water and 51% didn't have access to improved sanitation. These statistics are even worse now with the continued population growth. The Millennium Development Goal targets for water supply and sanitation are out of reach. While Papua New Guinea has made progress in improving access to clean water and sanitation facilities, there's still much more work to be done. Government targets for access are conservative compared to the MDGs, both expected to achieve the same targets of 70% access to both water and improved sanitation, but the government's timeframe was 15 years later. Because of the decline in access for both water and sanitation, the inability to keep pace with rapid population growth, PNG fell well short of its MDG targets and is unlikely to meet its own national targets for 2030. To meet the government's 2030 targets for water supply and sanitation, the annual capital expenditure requirements are estimated at $31 million on average for every year from now until 2030. This is for improved water supply, and about $70 million every year for sanitation. A large proportion of this funding is for water supply in rural areas, because of the low access to improved facilities in 2010 compared with the targets. This analysis illustrates the importance of looking into low-cost technologies for reaching the country's targets. Lack of access to clean water is the primary cause of children dying before their 5th birthday. A child's well-being is highly dependent on both the quality and the availability of water and how well this precious resource is managed. Contaminated water causes a range of diseases which are often life-threatening. Of the waterborne diseases affecting children, the most deadly are diarrheal infections. The public health importance of diarrhea among children lies partly in the high mortality rates, as well as in the interactions between malnutrition, recurrent diarrhea, and impaired child development. Research shows that every $1 invested in improved sanitation translates into an average return of $9. Those benefits are experienced specifically by poor children and in the disadvantaged communities that need them the most. Interventions into water supply, sanitation and hygiene are estimated to reduce diarrheal incidence on average by 1/4 and child mortality by 65%. A review of the child-friendly schools in rural areas in PNG revealed that 41% of the students said what they didn't like about their school was the condition of the toilets. Most of the schools do not have good toilet facilities. There tend to be basic pit toilets and some schools do not have toilets at all, forcing students to defecate in the open, which poses serious health risks. On top of this, most schools don't have access to piped water systems. They depend on rainwater to meet the drinking and hygiene needs of students. Adolescent girls in schools suffer the most due to a lack of clean, private changing rooms and a limited access to soap, water and sanitary pads. Benefits to PNG of increased access to water and sanitation are significant and include improved health of people through decreasing cases of diarrhea, increased equity of facilities, as well as reduced morbidity and mortality caused by water-related diseases. Other benefits include decrease in cases of malnutrition and flow-on effects such as growth stunting and underdevelopment, increased time and household income through safe and convenient water supply, greater productivity leading to economic development and increased rates of gross domestic product, and finally business and tourism development.
There are a number of key contextual determinants that affect water supply and sanitation in Papua New Guinea. Perhaps one of the most major determinants is the government and political system and its role in the delivery of water and sanitation to the Papua New Guinean people. Currently, the government does not provide a public water supply, meaning that residents either rely on government-owned companies to provide water and sanitation services to them on a paid basis, or in rural areas, the water supply is typically community-owned and operated. As the companies who provide water and sanitation have a monopoly over the market, they charge a premium for their services and as such prioritise those who can afford them. Unfortunately, this means these services are not accessible for the majority of Papua New Guinean people. As well as this, political volatility has meant that there is a lack of money available for capital works and infrastructure. Improving the water and sanitation just doesn't seem to be a priority for the Papua New Guinean government, and in the past they have relied heavily on not-for-profit organisations and foreign aid to provide both money and human resources to address the issue. The country suffered a national cholera epidemic between 2009 and 2011 as a result of long-term neglect of this issue. However, there were only short-term responses from the government. In addition to these macro-scale political factors, geographical and environmental determinants also play a role in this issue. 85% of the Papua New Guinean population currently lives in rural areas, which are often remote and completely inaccessible due to the mountainous landscape and a lack of roads. Electricity is a rarity in these remote communities. These factors make the delivery of clean water and sanitation services, as well as the construction of facilities, very difficult. There are regular periods of seasonal drought, and during this time, water tanks, rivers and creeks run dry, and what little clean water is available is delivered to those who can afford it. Cultural factors are another important determinant of sanitation practices in Papua New Guinea. One aspect of the culture is that much of the land is customary land, and as such is subject to disputes about ownership, making it difficult to build water and sanitation infrastructure. Individual personal hygiene behaviours such as hand washing are subject to a general and widespread lack of education about why they are important. For example, they may have seen a toilet before but have not been told why it is important to use it.
Evidence suggests that the prevalence of diarrheal disease can be reduced significantly through the implementation of safe drinking water and adequate sanitation and hygiene practices. Programs to improve water sanitation and hygiene, known as WASH, have been a major urgency in both rural and urban communities of PNG, with support from both government and non-government organisations, as well as international and community-based agencies. International agencies offer the largest support of PNG water programs, with Australia, World Bank and the United Nations agencies remaining as the major funders of the country's aid programs. Culture and religion play a major part in PNG people's way of life, with 96% of citizens identifying themselves as Christians. A strategic focus area of the 2050 vision encompasses spiritual, cultural and community development, aiming to create equal partners between NGOs and churches in the development and service delivery. The driving force in water sanitation aid is reflective of this vision, with non-governmental and church organisations playing a huge part in the implementation and funding support of these programs in PNG. A collaborative approach can be seen between these organisations and communities, with many aid groups carrying out water education programs in communities and schools. Aligning with the Millennium Development Goal to combat disease, Child Fund PNG run a school wash program that focuses on behaviour change education programs to reduce water and sanitation-related diseases. UNICEF PNG provides support and funding to this program to enable children, especially females, to attend class regularly and benefit from safe toilet and hand washing facilities, safe drinking facilities and menstrual hygiene management in schools. Many of the WASH programs are directed towards the service of urban areas of PNG, with a severe lack of responsibility and funding for the delivery of water and sanitation to the rural areas, where the majority of the population reside. It is the lack of resources and differing agendas between departmental and national government mandates that has caused water and sanitation committees at both the provincial and national levels to collapse. Although multiple government plans in the past have included goals and targets towards water safety and hygiene, there had been no direct strategy or policy in place as to how these targets can be implemented or achieved. The PNG government launched their first official WASH policy in 2015. However, assessment in the implementation and progress of this policy is yet to be released.
A recent study investigating 21 communities in rural PNG assessed the sustainability and equity of WASH programs. A number of communities were found to have been sustaining their water systems for many years. An important factor of success was due to water systems being seen as a community asset rather than an individual. Successful communities appeared to have a clear scheme for collecting ongoing funds for maintenance and repairs on systems. However, it was found that making payments as needed rather than ongoing contributions appeared to be more culturally acceptable in most communities. Women appear to value the benefits of and participate in water programs the most, as they tend to bear the most responsibility for managing water in the household. It is reported, however, that women do not have sufficient input or decision-making power in WASH program consultation due to the cultural norms around gender roles in the country.
The overall goal of the project is to improve sanitation and access to clean drinking water to primary schools in remote areas of PNG in 5 years. This is part of the overarching Sustainable Development Goal number 6, universal access to clean water and sanitation by 2030. The following objectives will be employed to achieve this goal. The first objective is to increase the students' and teachers' knowledge of hygiene practices such as hand washing, boiling water and safe disposal of feminine hygiene products by 70% in 6 months. To measure the outcomes of Objective 1, students and teachers' baseline knowledge on hygiene practices will be assessed by completing a survey with content related to basic hygiene. The students will complete the same survey 6 months later to see if the objective was met. Teachers will also be asked to record the number of students who wash their hands at appropriate times to see if the students' hygiene knowledge transitions into practice. The second objective is to increase the amount of rural primary schools that have low-cost and sustainable sanitation facilities, including hand-washing facilities, by 30% in 1 year. The outcomes will be measured by first recording the number of schools that have sanitation facilities and hand-washing facilities prior to the implementation of the project. The project team will record all new sanitation facilities that they have built. School principals will also report if the school has created any more of these facilities. Once the project is finished, the number of in-use sanitation facilities will be recorded by the school's principals to ensure that the technologies are sustainable. The third objective is to increase the number of rural primary schools that have access to clean drinking water via technology that is appropriate as well as affordable and that can be easily maintained by the community by 40% in 3 years. To measure the outcomes of this objective, the number of schools that already have access to clean drinking water will be recorded as baseline. The project team will record the number of schools they provide clean water technology to, and school principals will record any additional water technology that may be implemented. After the completion of the project, the number of schools with working water technology will be recorded again to gauge if the technologies are sustainable. Objective 4 aims to decrease the prevalence of childhood diarrheal illness in students by 50% in 5 years. Measuring the outcomes will involve the teachers recording the number of sick days of students and questioning students and teachers on their illnesses to form a baseline measurement. The same procedure will be done in 5 years to determine if there is a reduction in the prevalence of childhood diarrheal illness. Reporting the outcomes of the project to stakeholders is important so that they can determine if their strategies are effective and feasible. Reporting the outcomes to the community is important to encourage sustainability. The outcomes will be presented to the school communities by seminars by the project team members. Written reports will communicate the outcomes to other stakeholders, such as Papua New Guinea's National Department of Health, Australian Aid Programme and UNICEF.
In order to support the objectives mentioned and target the underlying causes of diarrheal illness in children, several strategies have been designed. The first is the hands-on hygiene strategy. Because WASH programs have been designed as a whole concept which require a number of resources with specific infrastructure needs, our first strategy is to design a small-scale program to reach communities that WASH programs are unable to, such as in rural areas. The strategy will be a simple hand-washing program in which soap will be provided to schools to aid in hand-washing practices. The benefits of soap and hand-washing will be encouraged through educational sing-along songs and activities including paintings or drawings to embrace cultural values and traditions.
The
Second is the flush-free strategy. This involves the introduction of an improved, low-cost sanitation facility that doesn't require water through the implementation of a cluster of compostable toilet systems in schools to ensure that waste is captured and covered in an enclosed chamber. The compost technique is proven to dramatically reduce smell and harmful germs, whilst providing a sustainable and low-cost sanitation facility that can also be implemented in areas that are unable to receive complete wash program.
The final strategy is the remote team strategy. This involves recruiting a local team from PNG who will know how to access hard-to-reach rural primary schools. The team's job will be to evaluate the individual schools so they can deliver the most appropriate, low-cost water technologies with the primary aim of long-term sustainability. To determine the most effective water technology, the team will need to consider maintenance, the availability of spare parts in local markets, and the cost of the components. The team will also be responsible for informing the community on the importance of the technologies and how to use these. This may involve talking to the principals and appropriate community leaders so it can be passed on by a respected member. The team members will create a WASH group committee comprised mainly of women because it is evident that women are the main users of WASH facilities. The committee will be responsible for appropriate use of the technologies so that women can have a stronger role in the community. The remote team members will demonstrate to the WASH committee how to maintain the water technology and what components they may need to buy from the markets when the technology undergoes maintenance.
The most major barrier to improving delivery of clean water and sanitation to schools in Papua New Guinea is the government's role in implementing WASH programs. A commitment of monetary and human resources will be necessary to implement a widespread WASH program that is both sustainable and targets hygiene practices in a culturally appropriate way. Ideally, the government should direct resources towards establishing a public water supply system, although this may be logistically impossible in the more remote areas. More realistically, a dedicated framework or policy to coordinate and regulate the cost of the current water delivery services would be a good starting point in reducing the disparities currently seen. Another barrier is the lack of education surrounding the importance of hygiene practices. Education programs delivered in schools will only be effective in changing individual behaviour if they are culturally appropriate and target the reasons why a behaviour should be carried out. Ideally, education programs should be delivered by a respected member of the community so that cultural, religious and language factors are incorporated into the program. A third barrier is the economic and environmental factors surrounding water and sanitation delivery. In particular, the high cost of water and extreme weather conditions need to be taken into account when designing a program. Particularly in rural areas, a water delivery and sanitation system needs to be cost-effective, easy to maintain or repair, and sustainable in the long term.
Improving water quality and sanitation in schools in Papua New Guinea is a major health issue that requires ongoing investment. Benefits of improving these resources are exponential, especially for those children who live rurally or have limited access. It is these children who suffer from diarrheal infections and other waterborne diseases that require urgent assistance. Achieving the 6th Millennium Development Goal of clean water and sanitation would be a great success to PNG as well as worldwide.
Bebe war